Hello, welcome back. As we have discussed yesterday, we started discussing on module 2, that is external analysis of the environment. In the previous sessions, we had discussed about scanning the environment, that is external environment, then analysis of industry. So, industry analysis we had discussed in the previous sessions, and we had also discussed in detail about the PESTEL, that is political, economic, social, then the social, technological, environmental and legal factors in detail, and how it impacts and how it correlates in choosing the right strategy. So, this PESTEL analysis, scanning the environment, industry analysis always throws open light on the opportunities and threats available in the environment. In this session, we are going to discuss the competitive analysis. So, in continuation of the same the previous two sessions, so today we will discuss about the competitive analysis. So, what is this in a competitive analysis and how this is going to affect the entire environment. So, the competitive concerns, it is the forces driving competition in the industry, which is a part and parcel of the industry structure. The origins of a competitive strategy can be traced back to ancient military strategies, especially the strategies suggested by Sun Tzu in the Art of War. So, which emphasizes that knowing one's enemy as a critical component of warfare. So, knowing the strengths, weaknesses and their tactics and the strategies of enemies will always help the existing player to devise their own strategy. So, that is pertaining to the military strategy. Way back in 17th, 18th and the 19th century, economists like Adam Smith, Alfred Marshall discussed competitive markets, and they laid the groundwork for understanding how businesses operate in competitive environments. The differences in the competitive approaches of rival firms, for example, price competition, advertising battles, increased customer service, they are all part and parcel of it, because we all understand and know that it is a differentiate or die. Unless the company or the firm has got the information or the in-depth knowledge about the competition and competitors' moves and their tactics, so it is very difficult to devise their own strategy. So, therefore, strategies, positions and competitive strength of market leaders and close rivals are very important to a firm. And in the yesterday's analysis, industry analysis, we have also seen why some rivals perform better than the others. We have seen the example of Fiat compared with Nissan and Toyota and all. So, within the same industry, same car industry, that is even the operators across North America, Europe and especially Japanese, even if you take the Japanese car makers, the profit margins and their sales are in a completely different. So, it is of the great importance to understand the competitive concerns and devise their own strategy. So, understanding why someone is doing better and why someone is not doing better and why someone performs in an average manner. Now, why do we need to study this competitive analysis? What is the significance of it, the importance and relevance as far as the firms are concerned? So, it provides a informed decision making. So, informed decision making always is a better choice for any company. So, unless somebody understands what is going on in the industry, they cannot make their own choice. or move their own strategies. Then the competitive analysis also provides an insight into the what are the opportunities and threats are available in the market or in the competition or in the given space. Then it also provides a strategic planning, like how based on all these things how a firm can move and stay altogether different, and it also gives a scope how not to repeat the same moves which are adopted by the competitors. Then benchmarking and performance improvement. If somebody has already excelled in particular area, whether it is in the service or product delivery or supply chain or whatever it is, production capabilities and all. So, a firm can always learn and take it as a best benchmark and try to further improve upon as far as their performance is concerned. And this also provides customer insights. So, customer insights, as the markets get more wider and deeper, so you will have a better customer insights. So, what the competitors are doing and what the customers are doing. So, this also gives an insight what are the unmet demands of the customers, so that a firm can concentrate on that one and try to plug the gaps which are not catered by the existing competitors. Then innovation and differentiation. So, the strategy is all about attaining a competitive advantage and sustaining it for the long period of time. So, if a company is not able to differentiate its own products and services, so they are not going to stay in the competitive arena for long time. So, based on the existing market, existing product and services, there is always a room for innovation and differentiation. If they try to innovate and come out with a better product and services, so then they can differentiate and cater the new segment of the market rather than focusing on the same market. Then the risk management. So, how you can reduce the risks that are available, how a firm can mitigate their risks available in the or that are available in the existing space. Now, let us understand the framework for competitor analysis. So, we have 4 things here. The first one is strategy, objectives, assumptions and resources and capabilities. To start with, the first one is strategy. How is the firm competing? Okay. Then, so how firm is competing? So, of course, it is not applicable to the single firm, it is applicable to multiple firms. How each and every firm is competing and what are the objectives? So, what are competitors' current goals? Then, is performance meeting these goals? Whether the existing performance of the competitors are good enough to meet the current goals. Then, based on the dynamics, the industry dynamics, how are its goals likely to change? Whether they remain, are they going to remain same, or are they going to change, likely to change in the future? Then assumptions, there what assumptions does the competitor hold about the industry and itself? So, what are the assumptions? Because even in the automobile industry, which you have seen in the previous session, so within the same space, somebody looks at the performance, somebody looks at the quality, somebody looks at the better mileage, somebody looks at the price, somebody looks at the value. So, how somebody is going to focus upon? So, that depends on what assumptions does the competitor hold about the industry and itself. Then the last but not the least, So, what are the resources and capabilities? So, what are the competitors' key strengths and weaknesses? So, although the competitor analysis is pertaining to the opportunities and threats available, but so what are the strengths and weaknesses that a firm has got? So, every firm has got its own strengths and weaknesses, and that strengths and weaknesses depends or stem from the resources and capabilities on its own. So, the strategy, objectives, assumptions, resources and capabilities lead to the predictions. So, what strategy changes will the competitor initiate? So, based on these things, so what are the changes that a competitor can or may initiate, and how will the competitor respond to our strategic initiative? So, it is not only one or two operators in the particular arena, but multiple operators, how they are going to devise or how they are going to change their competitive strategy, and how will they respond to the strategic initiatives. So, this is the framework for competitor analysis. Then, so we have been discussing about the building competitive advantage. So, the strategy is all about attaining and sustaining competitive advantage, that is CA. So, competitive advantage can be attained through various means. So, you are seeing here, so one is value, the price and cost. So, what are the common value drivers? So, whether it is a mobile phone or cars or aircraft, or where there is a huge competition. So, these drivers, value drivers and cost drivers would vary, but more or less they remain same as far as the common things are concerned. To start with, so what is the technology that a firm is offering? So, what are its quality products and services, and what is the delivery of its the products and services, then breadth of line, the service, then is there any possibility of customization then that a company can do in providing the particular services, then the geographical area which it is trying to address. So, the risk assumptions, the brand or reputation, then network externalities, environmental policy, then complements which it delivers. So, there are 10 common value drivers that determine the value. So, as you are aware, so there are few companies that focus upon delivering the more value, and there are more companies which are focusing upon the cost drivers. So, there is a huge competition in the cost drivers than compared to the value, because you have to match. So, there is always a the trade off between the cost and value. In between, the price is stuck. So, let us understand the cost drivers, the economies of scale, the economies of scope. So, what is the learning curve that it offers, low input costs, organizational practices, and vertical integration. So, economies of scale and scope, for example, if LED or LCD manufacturer, so there are only few operators who can manufacture LED, and of course, LCD is not available now. So, it is all been replaced by LED, that is a light emitting device panel, that is for the television sets, then the computer monitors and what not. So, there are multiple applications, but there are only few companies who can manufacture and who have the ability to deliver, because they have the economies of scale. And what is the learning curve that they have, and how they transform that one into providing in a better cost. So, all of them cannot manufacture, and they cannot enjoy the economies of scale, because they will not have such huge manufacturing or delivery ability. For example, we have the Apple products and all. Apple does not manufacture its own product, but it is given to the Foxconn and Winston, Foxconn and Winston and all. So they manufacture because they have the economies of scale to produce millions of pieces within a short period of time. So therefore, competitive advantage is determined by industry characteristics or positions and is a combination of effective market positioning and defense against competitors. So anything that raises value to the customer or lowers cost and leads to an improvement in the firm's market position is known as a value driver, and those that determine the firm's cost as cost driver. The firm's resources and capabilities determine the value and the cost drivers on which it competes. So based on these value and cost drivers, the companies are going to build competitive advantage. So now let us understand what are the types of competitive advantages are available. So one is a competitive advantage, the second one is competitive parity, the third one is competitive disadvantage. Let us understand what is this competitive advantage. So a competitive advantage comes when a firm creates more economic value than its rivals, and it has got again two sub things, that is temporary competitive advantage and sustained competitive advantage. So temporary competitive advantage that lasts a very short time. The sustained competitive advantage or SCA that we normally call, that is the competitive advantages that last a long time. So if you have to look at these two things, whether it is temporary or sustained, both are not permanent. If a firm takes and moves aggressively and takes sufficient measures, so it can overcome the temporary advantage too and gain sustained competitive advantage. And if a sustained competitive advantage company cannot if they are not in a position to innovate and offer differentiated products and all, so they might come down to the in a temporary competitive advantage. So all these advantages, if you are to take a look at in the long run, they are temporary only. So unless the firm completely or continuously, constantly, persistently puts its efforts on sustaining those competitive advantage, and a firm cannot remain complacent that they have achieved sustained competitive advantage. So we must remember that, one must remember that no advantage or no disadvantage is temporary nor permanent. So neither it is temporary nor it is permanent. So the firm has to always keep on working on maintaining or sustaining the advantages it has got. Then comes the competitive parity. So competitive parity comes when a firm creates the same economic value as its rivals. So it is on par. So neither it has got advantage nor it has got disadvantage. So it is the same value that it is offering compared to its rivals. Then coming to competitive disadvantage, when a firm creates less economic value than its rivals. So again it has got the two types, temporary competitive disadvantages, competitive disadvantages that last a very short term, and sustained competitive disadvantages, competitive disadvantages that last a long time. So here also the same thing, any competitive disadvantage either can be temporary or permanent depending upon the kind of moves that a firm makes. So, therefore, a firm has a competitive advantage when it can create more economic value than its rival firms. So, economic value is simply the difference between what customers are willing to pay for a firm's products or services and the total cost of producing these products or services. If a mobile company's cost of production is 10,000 rupees for a X product, and if it is selling at 30,000 rupees, so then it has got the better advantage than the same the rival. So, its manufacturing cost is also say 11,000 rupees, but it is selling at 20,000 rupees. So, then it has got lesser competitive advantage with the firm compared with the firm Y, X and Y. So, that is how we compare the advantages and disadvantages of a firm. Now the question is that we have understood like how these sustainable competitive advantages are built and all. Now, building competitive advantage is relatively easier than sustaining it for the longer period of time. So, again let us understand. So, it all depends on the resources and capabilities. So, resources and capabilities will bring in more either they create the more cost drivers or they bring in more value, and both of them combined together will deliver superior market position and thus create a sustainable competitive advantage. The same resources and capabilities will also help in retaining the existing customers and also preventing imitation. So, there are various strategies that are available. So, imitation is always harmful for any company. So, because them apart from imitating the existing products and services, they might also bring in additional new features in their existing portfolio. So, retaining customers, preventing imitation can make them defendable market position, again that also create sustainable competitive advantage. So, look at these things. So, the value drivers, cost drivers, then resources and capabilities will all help in retaining customers, preventing imitation, attaining superior market position, and then thus creating sustainable competitive advantage. So, sustainable competitive advantage means producing a larger economic contribution than competitors and defending the sources of that contribution from rivalry. Then the second one is that to establish a dominant market position, a firm must invest in resources and capabilities that determine value and cost drivers. So, it is the difference between value and cost, not whether the firm has the highest value or the lowest cost, that determines the firm's advantage. So, let us also understand how this appraising the strategic importance of resources and capabilities will come. So, the profit earning potential of a resource or capability comes from three things. I mean, there are various factors that are there. So, first one is establishing a competitive advantage, then sustaining a competitive advantage, then appropriating a competitive advantage. So, establishing a competitive advantage comes from relevance and scarcity. So, how relevant the products and services, how relevant the strategies given by them by their competitors will all define in establishing the competitive advantage. Then in sustaining a competitive advantage comes from three factors, that is durability, transferability and replicability. So, it has to be durable, their strategies, and it is very tough to replicate it and very difficult to transfer that one. So, then only they will have a sustainable competitive advantage. So, appropriating it, that is the property rights, especially intellectual property rights. Then the firm's relative bargaining power, whether it is a buyer or supplier. So, that what is the bargaining power that a firm has got. Then how they embed all these factors, so bring in and put it as a package. So, that takes them or that makes them in appropriating a competitive advantage. So, ultimately, so all these factors, whether it is relevance, scarcity, durability, transferability, replicability, property rights, relative bargaining power and embeddedness, will ultimately lead to profit earning potential of a resource or capability. So, it is the resources and capabilities that brings in the sustainable competitive advantage to a firm. So, with this we have completed the analysis on competitive competitors. So, the competitive analysis comes to an end with this session. Thank you.